The semifinals are almost done. We got a game tonight, although Saints, maybe there's like one guy there without Kamara. You got Kendre Miller. And then you have the Packers guys who none of the wide receivers are must start. So basically just Josh Jacobs and that's it from this game. Maybe Kendre Miller, maybe one of the Packers receivers, but matchups are probably decided. This is our last winner loser. Well, we'll have one next week, but it's going to be more of a season, the overall season and some winners and losers from the overall season. So we're already here. It flies by. Christmas is in 2 days. Playoffs are starting, clinching. We still got a couple teams clinching for the playoffs and fighting for seeding, but yeah, it's here. Playoff football is here, but we're starting here and starting off with a lot of running backs this week went off. Devon Achane, 17 carries, 120 yards, 6 catches, 70 yards, and a touchdown. I heard a stat about like the something about the Dolphins, and they haven't had like a run over. They've only had like 3 runs over 20 yards this year or something, which is kind of crazy because like Achane, that's all he did last year was like bust off 50-yard runs. This was like their first game where they actually ran the ball effectively. Achane's been good all year because he's been catching the ball. He's on pace for like 85 catches. But go ahead, Dad, take it away. Achane here with almost 200 total yards.
Yeah, you can tell now the Dolphin offense kind of goes through him. So, and he's just the highlights I see, which again are just highlights. They're showing you the good, and he looked, he's ripping off big runs and catches and stuff like that. So, I think you start thinking about next year a little bit. Some people do, like me, and you think, well, I better not ignore this guy next year. The only thing, that worries you is his health. I guess that's with any running back, but HN he's definitely kind of the focal pivot point there in the Dolphins offense. So, and with Mike McDaniel, if he's still hanging around, he likes to run the ball. So big 180 flip from last year when it was Mostert had, what do you have, like 20 or 21 touchdowns, and now he's pretty much out of the 21. Picture,
which is kind of weird, right? But yeah, I think I was thinking about this with Bucky Irving as well, and Achane, and even Tank Dell last year, where the only criticism of these guys was their size. That was it. It was the only criticism for Achane, for Tank Dell, for Bucky Irving was like, I don't know, but they're good. They're great. They look at the tape. They're wonderful. They have the numbers. They're explosive. They're fast, but they're size. And it's like, well, I think we're kind of putting that to bed a little bit. Like if you're good, you're good. And it's Achane doing it. He has over 1,300 total yards. He's on pace for 85 catches. He has 11 touchdowns. Like the guy's going to have 1,500 total yards with 13 touchdowns and 80 plus catches. He's going to have almost 300 touches on the year. Hasn't missed a game, by the way, or maybe he missed one. But I don't think he has. But again, like we need to stop. If the only concern is just size, then we need to just move on from that.
And you just said it. Those questions are answered, So pretty much size is, when you're 175 pounds and you're a running back, or Tank Dell's 165, you think like, oh man, those guys are going to get crushed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you're getting killed every play. So
no. I mean, and big guys get hurt too. So
yep.
Cooper Kupp, man, this is disappointing. If you somehow survived week 1 of the playoffs when you put up a goose egg and you started him again and you got knocked out, you must be feeling terrible. Because I was saying I was going back to starting him, because he was the wide. I kept saying this heading into last week, heading into week 15. He was the wide receiver 4 in points per game. There was 3 wide receivers better than him points per game. And then he's just fallen off the last 2 weeks. I guess the Rams offense has fallen off the last 2 weeks, Three targets, three catches, or sorry, two catches. I put three catches there, two catches and 24 yards. It's just, again, if you survive somehow, you made it to the championship, starting Cooper Cup, are you benching him? Or are you going to go back one more time and hoping,
I
you don't get three in a row?
I had that scenario. I was in the semifinals. Cup was on my team, and I didn't survive this week. So, and he was part of the reason. So,
Yeah. Yeah. Would you start him if you did happen to survive?
um, on that team, yeah, this is going to be painful to say. I could have started Jonathan Taylor.
Oh man, that's rough.
Yeah, oh man is right. I
Yeah.
still don't think I would have won though. I mean,
Yeah.
so I think I was that far out of it. And yeah, it was Jonathan Taylor, 39 points, and I lost by no, I would have won.
Yeah, that's
Shit.
rough.
Okay.
It's rough.
Yeah. No, I definitely I wouldn't have. Yeah, it just he's obviously he's on the backside of his career, unfortunately, and you know, that's all you can say.
Yeah. Yeah, it is unfortunate. Brock Bowers, a winner here. The guy just keeps producing 13 targets, 11 catches, 99 yards. He has 101 yards, sorry, 101 catches on the year, over almost 1,100 yards, only four touchdowns. That's just the offense he's on. I believe he passed that Mike Ditka catch season. Or yardage season, I believe it was. Yeah. 1076 for Ditka back in 1961. And we have 1067. So he still needs about 9 more yards, but he also, I think, could break Puka Nakua's rookie catch record, which is 105. He's only 100, sorry, 4 catches away from that. So he's going to be, not just tight end numbers. This guy's putting up all like rookie anything numbers is insane. So I think I asked you this like a month ago. Does he go first round next year or second round at the worst? Like, where are you taking him in fantasy drafts next year?
Well, yeah, I think like you got a 12 person team, 12 team league, and why wouldn't he go at the end of the first round or something?
It's where Kelsey was going, but it
Yeah.
took Kelsey a while for us to finally buy in. That's why I'm asking, because like Kelsey wasn't going first round until just a couple of years ago, even though Kelsey's been awesome for a decade. Like I think it took us a while to like a tight end really. He's the tight end one on the season in PPR, tight end 2 in points per game behind George Kittle. But I mean, he put up kind of difference making stuff. Like you just look at again the Kelsey years. Kelsey's putting up 18, 17, 18 points per game. Brock Bowers in his rookie year, 15 and a half. Like that's difference making stuff. So curious to see where he goes
My
next
God,
year.
if you had a tight end premium league and you had him,
Yeah.
you're doing well.
And that's another thing I think we can kind of put to bed, like this rookie tight ends can't do it. We have 2 back to back now. 2 back to back tight ends. They're doing it. So speaking of tight ends, Kyle Pitts, 2
Oh,
targets, 1 catch, 7 yards. He's complete. He started off the year okay. Like he was like a top 10, top 7 tight end. Since November 17th. So since week 11. So the last 5 weeks, he has a combined, doing quick math here, 68 yards in 5 weeks
jeez.
and 7 catches in 5 weeks. That's bad. Like, what happened? I mean, is he just not good? Is it the offense? By the way, one of his targets, he literally handed the ball to the defender for an
Yeah,
interception.
Well, he was getting
So
tackled, wasn't he? And he kind of lost. It was.
yeah,
It
but it
was
was kind of like a shovel to the defender.
right.
Like he should have caught it, even though he was
It looked like he
contacted.
gave it to him, but I'm sure he didn't mean to. But
No, of course not. But I mean, this guy was the fourth overall pick. He went over Jamar Chase and Penny Sewell.
wow.
Like, is it
Yeah, he
just?
was. Man, just remember all the pre-draft hype and how special he
I
was,
mean,
and
I was number one on
yeah,
that. Like,
yeah, and it was like, man, that is
is there
like,
any hope for him? Is there any hope for this guy? Like in the future, he gets on another team because he's already heading into his. This is his fourth year. This is his fourth year. I don't think they did they give him the fifth
no,
year.
they better not have.
So like he lands on the Chargers. He lands on the Chiefs. He lands on the name another team with a stud quarterback and stuff like that. So they did pick up their fifth year option for him, but they can always kind of I think get out of that potentially. But like, do we bring up the hype again? Because like he's still only 24 years old, and we talked about it heading into this year. Travis Kelsey did not record a pass. He didn't catch a pass until he was 24 years old. In the NFL, like these other guys like Sam Laporta is going to be 24 here in a couple of weeks. He's barely younger than Kyle Pitts. Even I think Brock Bowers is pretty young. Brock Bowers is 22, but like let's just say he lands on the Chiefs. Kyle Pitts gets to the Chiefs. Are you going to buy back into him, or are you just done until you see it?
No, I mean, well, first off, you need to have some expectations. Is he going to turn in to Brock Bowers and Travis Kelsey and and Sam Laporta and stuff like that? I don't know. I'm not sure if I see that. There's I understand going to different teams and things like that, and different quarterbacks and different systems could change the story a little bit, but I don't know. I think one thing is this guy doesn't. Is he truly a tight end?
Yeah.
And then they put him out the wide receiver, and maybe he's not good enough to be outside playing the outside very much and stuff like that, and getting separation and things and that type stuff. So I don't know, man. So the answer to your question, I would say, yeah, he can go to those other teams, but whether he, you know, I, I just think he's like a bowl of shit, if you ask me. So
Yeah, I just can't. I mean, the physical tools are still there. So it's like, someone like David Njoku. David Njoku, if you guys didn't know, was a first round pick. He went 29th overall. And he was bad until last year. And now we love David Njoku, but it literally took him until his seventh year to have a really good season.
well,
You
Cleveland.
know,
The funny thing about Njoku is we thought he sucked, or wasn't very good, but Cleveland signed him to a contract extension. So
before
to
he was,
me,
yeah,
that
good.
automatically thinks like, okay, Cleveland knows what they got, and they haven't exploited it yet. But it honestly seemed like Flacco is the one who brought Njoku out, right? Didn't it?
Yeah, and Njoku's having a good season this year too. So,
Even with all their
um,
quarterback BS in Cleveland, I mean,
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Before we get into the next guy, I don't know if you saw my message in our group chat, but I put out two quarterbacks, and if you did see it, Dad, then this is more for the audience. But two stats for quarterbacks. This is a 17 game pace, so it's not 17 games total, but it's a 17 game pace, and I'm pulling it up now. So give me a second here. But it was QBA, right? Has 30 is the 17 game pace of 3,500 passing yards, 21 touchdowns, 13 interceptions, 400 rushing yards and 6 rushing touchdowns. Right. So you're talking about 3,500 passing yards, 400 rushing yards, and then 27 total touchdowns. Quarterback B has 3,950 passing yards, so about 450 passing yards more. 22 touchdowns, so one more passing touchdown. 12 interceptions, one less interception. 250 rushing yards, about 150 less rushing yards and no rushing touchdowns. So, who would you choose between those two options for fantasy? I think most people are saying QBA, right? Because the rushing yards difference makes up for the passing yards difference, and there's about 5 more touchdowns for QBA. And QBA is Bryce Young since in his pace since getting benched and coming back from his benching. And quarterback B is CJ Stroud. And I think it's kind of amazing because if you play Dynasty, um, the difference between CJ Stroud and Bryce Young after year one was incredible. Like it was like you made the worst decision ever if you took Bryce Young over CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud's the future, all of this stuff. Very similar. And I was telling people this offseason, this reminds me a lot of Herbert and Tua. After year one, even year two, it was like Herbert was untouchable and Tua was a piece of crap. And those guys are much closer now. Obviously, we still want Herbert. I'd still want Stroud. I still think Stroud's the better quarterback and all of that stuff. But the gap's a lot closer now. It really is. And it just shows like sometimes we need to be patient. Sometimes we need to give these guys some time. There's a reason why he was the number one overall pick. And he's been playing well. He's been playing well. I know 158 passing yards isn't much, but he got 70 on the ground, 3 total touchdowns. He made some throws. I worked that game. He made some throws. I was just like, wow, like that was an amazing throw. So hope for Bryce Young. Are they going to give him they have to give him another year, right? In Carolina?
Oh, absolutely. I know they were talking about, the scenario, let's just say a month ago was, oh, they could trade him and then draft another quarterback and start over. And it's like, nah, that doesn't sound good, And
Mhm.
I it, obviously Adam Thielen is important to Bryce Young, and I know
Yeah.
Adam Thielen's a little older and stuff like that, but he sure, once he came back from his injury and everything else, it seemed good, and then you see Carolina, giving Chuba Hubbard a contract extension, even though they drafted the running back pretty high. Now he hurt his knee, but so
Mhm.
there's some things to look at, on a team, So I think they're still gonna be, Carolina's still in on Bryce Young. So
Yeah. And and another thing is more importantly, maybe well, not more importantly for fantasy, but kind of because we need the guys to win too. He's won 3 games of 3 of 7, I believe. One, two, three, four, five, six, 3 of 8 since coming back. And by the way, he almost beat the Chiefs, lost by 3 to the Chiefs, almost beat the Buccaneers, lost by 3 to the Buccaneers, almost beat the Eagles. Xavier Legette dropped a pass that would have put them ahead very late in that game. Like they easily could have won those 3 games, and we're looking at the Panthers differently, like completely. So I just think it's a good reminder. Like we got to be patient sometimes, and sometimes he had no one to throw to last year, like no one, and now he has a couple guys. Jalen Coker, an undrafted guy, is looking decent. You got Chuba Hubbard playing well. You get another stud receiver in there, which they thought they got with Deontay. Things could be turning around for them for sure. So
yeah, yeah, and that's a good point. Yeah, they they get Deontay Johnson, thinking that their receiver room's looking good. They got a combination of veteran guys and some younger guys and stuff like that, and they draft a tight end and they thought, we're probably looking pretty good. They drafted a running back,
mhm.
and things haven't really happened, but the team is obviously is looking better. I guess
Yeah,
that's is the
and
best way to say it.
and he's running the ball more too, which is very important to just the development of a player. He has 176 rushing yards in the last 6 games, which is good for a quarterback. That's almost 30 yards a game, which is for fantasy is great. That's almost a 500-yard pace. And he could do that, by the way. He ran like a low in the low 4.4s. Like that's something he should take advantage of more. Obviously not take hits, but Josh Allen, finally, a loser here. 150 passing yards and a touchdown. He did have 30 rushing yards, but not he got you to where you are. Hopefully you survived and didn't lose because of him, because that's always tough. You make it this far because this guy's carrying you and he's just bust proof, like he was literally bust proof, seemingly. And he kind of had a bad game. It wasn't the worst game. He got a touchdown and 30 yards on the ground, but it definitely wasn't Josh Allen like games, who coming into this week, was putting up 50 and 40 points in back-to-back weeks, like the guy was impressive. So just want to throw that out. I mean, if you made it, you're starting Josh Allen, although there is that little bit of concern he might have hurt his hand. So just keep an eye on that. But this guy's like an ox.
He said he hit his funny bone.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I heard him talk, and he said, because he was shaking his hand and stuff, and he said, yeah, he goes, no, I just got hit in the funny bone. Supposedly his left hand, he's wearing a glove. That's been injured half the year or something. Now they even say, could be broken. And, so hell, I mean, nothing looked broken against the Lions a couple of weeks ago. So,
yeah, definitely. Chuba Hubbard, just on that topic of the Panthers, went off, 25 carries, 150 yards, 4 catches, 13 yards, 2 touchdowns. He is having an incredible season. And obviously no Jonathan Brooks there. He has over 1,350 total scrimmage yards this year. Chuba Hubbard, we're talking about Achane. Like, he has more yards than Achane. He's on pace for 1,550. He has 11 touchdowns, just like Achane. Not quite as many catches, but he's no chump there either. He's averaging almost 3 catches a game, so he'll put up over 50 catches this year. Does he, knowing that Jonathan Brooks retore his ACL just a couple weeks ago, is Chuba Hubbard where does he go? Does he go in the first 2 rounds? Like,
absolutely.
I can't imagine he goes past round 3.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say, why wouldn't he be a second rounder?
Yeah.
You just think about his production. The problem is, I mean, it's not a problem, but is it going to repeat next year? So, but
yeah, I mean, he had a good, decent
don't
season
ignore
last
this
year.
dude. Don't ignore him. I've said, nah, he's just a scrub, or just a guy, I mean, not a scrub, but he's just a guy.
Just guy.
Yeah, just what do they call it? A jag, just another guy. That's what they say on XM radio. But
Yeah.
that's not the case. Do not ignore him.
No. And it's not necessarily just this year, by the way. He had a pretty good when he finally took over the starting role from Miles Sanders week 6 last year. He was good. He was basically averaging 77 scrimmage yards. So he would have had 1,300 scrimmage yards, and he was like a top 15 running back. So he's been good for about a season and a half now. Another back-to-back winner here. We got Jonathan Taylor, 29 carries, 218 yards, 3 touchdowns, man. I know you mentioned you benched him, and just a good reminder of how good Jonathan Taylor actually is.
I haven't played him in like a month, I bet, because I don't know. I just didn't have a spot for him. And it's, I knew I was going to take it in the shorts at one time, and here it happened. And he had 39 points, or one league, that had him benched. He had 39 points.
Yeah.
Crap,
yeah, he's it's a good reminder that he's special, like he put up one of the best pure rushing seasons we've kind of ever seen. 1,800 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns is up there with just pure rushing is one of the best ever. So not many guys get above that 1,800 yard mark. So he's on pace for over 1,700 scrimmage yards this year. Obviously, he missed some time, and putting up 200 yards helps too. But yeah, he's pretty awesome. And if he finishes off the season strong, he's going to be right back in there in late first round talks. So Tony Pollard, it's been tough these last 2 weeks. He's been injured. They've been seemingly when they start to get blown out, they don't really use Pollard and they use Tajay Spears, which is unfortunate. But you've had back-to-back kind of bad weeks. I mean, you got the touchdown last week, which saved you, but back-to-back weeks of only 40 or 45 yards, only 2 catches, 0 catches last week. I guess what I want to say is if you think the Titans are going to get blown out, and next week when you're playing in your fantasy championship and you have Pollard, then maybe don't start him. But they are playing the Jags, so you can maybe fire him back up. But man, it sucks because he's been so good this year, Pollard.
Yeah. He we were talking, just the direction of the Carolina Panthers, and they're kind of their needle is pointing up a little bit. Man, if you're the Titans, they are a wreck.
Yeah,
It's like it's too bad. And like you said, past couple of weeks with Tony Pollard, it's not happening. And I know he's got an ankle problem and practicing. Has been an issue for the past couple of weeks. They just don't seem to be using him very much.
Yeah, that was a weird game. By the way, Colts going back to JT. Colts ran the ball 50 times yesterday.
Wow.
50 times with Anthony Richardson only threw like 12 passes. Yeah. It'll be interesting to see what Tennessee does. They're currently holding the 4th overall pick. The 3 teams ahead of them are Giants, Patriots, and the Jags. And Patriots and Jags don't need a quarterback. So they could be in line to getting one of the top 2 guys if they wanted to. So we will see. Justin Jefferson, 13 targets, 10 catches, 144 yards, and 2 touchdowns. It's kind of funny because it feels like Justin Jefferson's not having a Justin Jefferson-like year, but the guy is still going to he's going to put up over 1,500 yards. He has double-digit touchdowns already, over 100 catches. The guy's just amazing.
Well, we were thinking about like that for St. Brown also, that it hasn't, yep. and he's like number 2 or 3 in just about every receiver stat in the NFL. Receptions, touchdowns, yards, and all this.
It just shows you when you're consistent, even when you don't have the boom games, all you need is a 3-week stretch of a couple boom games and you're good, then you're looking like you're a top 5 receiver. So yeah, it's just the guy's awesome. And Sam Darnold, been awesome this year. I think the Vikings bring Sam Darnold back. I don't see how you can't at least give him a bigger contract where it was a multi-year contract, but it was essentially a 1-year, you do it again and then you get paid. And if you don't, we can move on from you. Why not do that? You don't know what you have with JJ McCarthy. Nothing. The guy tore his ACL.
We kind of think of the team. The team should bring him back and all this other stuff, and they probably thinking, we'll give you 1 year, $25 million or $30 million or something like that.
No. Do the Baker contract. The Baker contract it wasn't the Daniel Jones where you're just in it for forever and you screwed yourself. Baker was a 3-year deal, $100 million contract, but after this year, they could get out of it. They have a very low cap hit this year, and then there's an out. And so obviously if Baker plays well like he has, you have him at a bargain kind of, and it's good for Baker. And if he doesn't play well, you cut him. That's exactly what you should be doing with Sam Darnold. It's you give him a big contract to where, hey, you play well, you're making a lot of money, and we have you it's kind of a win-win for both. So I don't know. I just don't see how you can move on from, like, you're literally in contention for the number one seed. Your
But
quarterback,
somebody is going to offer him a multi-year contract with some very good numbers.
I'm saying
And
the Vikings should.
well,
I'm not
okay,
saying it's a
so
1 year. I'm not saying
I'm
it's a
just
1 year.
saying somebody like the Giants, somebody who's really desperate. The
But if you're
Jets.
Sam Darnold, no, if you're Sam Darnold, right, and you spent your first
No, I
4 or
know
5
he.
years
Yeah, you
playing
need to
for
stick with the
crap
coach.
teams.
You
Yeah,
need to.
you played for the Jets, you played for the Panthers, like, you played for crap teams,
You need to stick with
and
the. You need to stick with the coach and stuff like that. So
yeah, so why
what's
wouldn't you go to a team where you have a Kevin O'Connell or a Shanahan or someone, that can that you've seen what bad coaching does. It almost
yeah,
ended your career, Sam
absolutely.
Darnold. And yeah, I just don't see how the Vikings. A lot of people, it's funny how the conversation has changed from after the first month and a half. It was no, JJ McCarthy, is going to be our guy, and now it's like, yeah, we're going to think about it. We're going to talk to Sam and blah blah blah. Like everything's changed because the guy's playing well. He's on pace for over 4,200 yards. He's thrown 32 touchdowns this year. So he's going to have like a 35, 36 touchdown season potentially. And he makes some throws where it's just like, man, holy crap. So I just think, and why rush McCarthy? Again, you don't know what you have with him. He tore his ACL early,
He had two
you know?
surgeries. No, it was a meniscus, I think.
Yeah, meniscus, and then he had a setback, right?
Yeah, but then yeah, he had a second surgery. So I mean, it's a knee problem. Let's not make we're not doctors here saying the meniscus is any worse than the ACL or vice versa. But yeah, he's had two surgeries in the last 2 or 3 months on his knee. So
Yeah, yeah. Um, Marvin Harrison Jr. Last time he's a loser. Eight targets, 4 catches, 30. I'm really worried about Marvin Harrison Jr.
I was thinking about him
because
yesterday. Like, man,
we we haven't had the big game from him. Like we had a week 2, 4 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. Great. But it wasn't like domination. It was like 2 big catches essentially, It wasn't just like 10 for 150 and just dominating the game. He hasn't had a game, and I keep saying this, he hasn't had a game with over 6 catches. That's his season high, 6 catches. He has 2 games over 65 yards this year. 2 games over 65 yards. That's it. He has. It's funny because like if this is 20 years ago, and you're looking at these stats for a rookie receiver, and you're saying, oh, 51 catches, probably 60 catches, 800 yards, and potentially double digit touchdowns. You're like, that's fantastic. And now it's like you're a big disappointment, and I don't know if it's how they're using him, but he doesn't get separation. I don't know. Like he just always the catches are contested, and this guy was supposed to be the best wide receiver, prospect we've ever seen, and it's a little frustrating because we're seeing other guys, do better than him, um,
absolutely.
and not just one guy or um, two guys. We're seeing multiple guys do better than him. I think I mentioned it last week, but he's fifth, and there's 4 guys ahead of him in receiving yards this year. Roma Dunze is only 20 yards behind him, and Roma Dunze is playing with a rookie quarterback and 2 other guys on the team. Xavier Worthy's less than 80 yards. He's like 80 total yards away from him. I don't know. It's kind of crazy, but um, and it transitions into the last guy here, a little bit longer of a show, but Brian Thomas Jr. Is amazing. And the sad thing is he's doing it with Mac Jones. Like, what's the excuse for Marvin Harrison? You have Kyler. Is it the coaching? I don't know. Is it how they're using him? Maybe, but Brian Thomas Jr. is on pace for just a monster year. 1,200 yards. He's already at almost 1,100 yards and 9 touchdowns. So he's going to put up 1,200 yards with 85 catches and 10 or 11 touchdowns potentially. Those are some massive, massive numbers. Like, those are big numbers, guys. Like,
He'll he'll be in the mix for a high fantasy draft spot next year. Maybe maybe second rounder or something,
Especially if they bring in a good coach, to kind of maybe fix Trevor Lawrence a bit, right? Like, then you're really excited. So, but that is all. Again, we'll be here next week doing this, but more of a season long one. So, good luck if you need something to happen tonight in your matchups, and good luck in your fantasy championships if hopefully you made it. So, let us know if you did. And yeah, we will see you all very, very soon.